Got it. Hello and welcome to Indiepocalypse Radio. Your now my hour and a half to 2 hour edition, down from my 8 hours of last week. I'm free from the pledge drive, and I'm free from. See, the smart thing about ending the pledge drive at 9 o'clock today is that I don't have to come on this thing and then promote it again. I'm just like, it's out of my life, out of my hair, into my car, which is to say the physical editions that people bought with them I brought to the post office today. And you can see my little tape spinning there and get, wow, look at this. I'm still very excited about this because I mail them so frequently, and my little label maker I bought 10 years ago still works. But we're back.
Nice.
Yes. And that voice you heard for one brief second is our first guest here on Indiepocalypse Radio, who you may know from issue 11 of casting our sites so far back seems like an eternity ago, but also not too long ago at all. With issue 11, it's Meachiums who did the cover for that issue. Hello.
Hey. Hello. It's me.
Hello. Welcome to the show. I was like, wait a minute, I don't have my standard stock questions are all, what's it called? How did you find the thing? What did you think? I know what I'm doing here. So
I
hello.
think you found me, actually.
I did find you. Yes. I have to recalibrate every now and then when I'm like, wait a minute, this person wasn't in the zine. I don't have my my go-to video game related questions, but you're just so let's talk me, Jim. Video games. What do you think about those things?
They're cool. Have I stopped playing Hades from Supergiant Games, even though it came out years ago? No, I'm still in the trenches. Yeah, love him.
Now that's the beauty of art is the secret that they don't tell you is that it has no matter when it comes out, it can still be good.
That's true. Sometimes that a game gets you out of like a depressive flunk for years and years. So
right. Sometimes it just hits you in the right spot when you didn't know what you were looking for, and that's that thing that games can provide is like a multi-day version of that, whereas like sometimes a movie is done in a day, in 2 hours, 3 hours if you're watching a long one. But
and then you sort of sit there and you're in your feelings, and then you feel empty. But with a game, you can always come back to it and replay it, which is always fun.
Right. It's this weird mid-ground sometimes between like art, entertainment, and hobby, and all sorts of. It's a very strange medium that feels unfamiliar compared to the rest of them. But speaking of mediums. You don't work in the medium of games at all. For people who aren't familiar, what sort of work do you do?
So I'm sort of I wear many hats,
yes.
but I am
the modern
primarily
online artist.
I know it's a little bit exhausting sometimes. You can mainly find me hopping around in comics, in illustration, and periodically in the tabletop RPG scene. I sort of dabble in that, but primarily you'll find me making comics and making merchandise and making pretty illustrations.
Yes, and that is how I came across your work. Is like, oh, those are pretty illustrations. I should pay this person to make one for me.
And I love it when people do that.
Yes, I found that artists, if you tell them you want to give them money, they are like, ooh, I love the idea of that.
Like, well, hello there.
Who's my new best friend now?
Right?
I just remember, I say that because I remember wrangling the first issue together, which I had to do like 100% by hand. There was no like submission forms or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to email like 60 people to get 10.
Oh my God, did you get like treated as a spam account? Because sometimes when I have to wrangle folks for projects, that's the email servers do not like me.
Right. No,
They're just like, clearly you're a bot, and I'm like, no.
Yeah,
I promise you, I'm not.
I run into that just setting up my submission acceptance things just every month to 10 people. Usually one or two of them will get caught by spam, because I don't know. I also include, when you're organizing things, you're including links and attachments because you're organizing stuff. And emails are like, who's this weirdo sending out links to me? Get in the
What
spam
are
folder.
what are these suspicious links?
Yes, this
You know,
person. I'm an internet thing, and I know when someone's trying to give me money, there's something up here. There's some kind of angle.
it's like, can't trust this.
If this person gives me $20, are they gonna want $60 so they can send me another 100, or what's up with them?
Right, or is it immediately like, we want your firstborn and $20,000?
Yes.
You never know.
And in return, I will give you $20. You can be my zine. You'll get lots of exposure.
Yes. 'Cause that's how we pay the bills.
Yes, I do. I love going to my local electric company and being like, look all this exposure I got. And they're like, they turn my power back on every time that happens. They're like, thank you for the exposure.
Oh my God.
I put out a sign on my front porch that says, I love Comcast. And I just pay them an exposure, and they keep my internet on.
Hey, if it works, it works.
Right. I have no complaints here. And that seems like the thing I truly respect about artists is the disregard for the idea of working for exposure when game development seems to be built around the concept of paying to go to conventions strictly for exposure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's weird because sometimes you sort of have that at cons as well.
Yeah.
So for background, I also table at cons and have been tabling since 2017 when I was a baby child and did not know what the heck I was doing.
Right.
I still don't know what I'm doing most of the time. But, it's, especially with how competitive conventions are now and the table prices keep on going up, it's like, okay, cool. Social media is also sort of like this weird minefield of like, are folks being stuck behind an algorithm?
Right.
Am I shadow banned? Is my work not good enough? That's always a lie. Your work is good enough. Numbers don't mean anything.
Right, yeah.
But it's like super easy to be like, oh, well, this thing didn't do great, or like this didn't go viral or whatever. But
Yeah, it's like I see it constantly. There's like, which version of typing Patreon will get the most people to sign up for my Patreon? It's like the scrying of social media to try and figure out what is the correct solution. And I am looking here now at a joke that I made about Indiepocalypse that went far broader and is consistently getting likes, where my promotional posts do not succeed as well. And I think that's just the social media. Maybe it feels like it is veering further and further away from a place where you can promote your work.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's like, okay, cool. It's weird because my Tumblr, which I sort of abandoned a while ago, but have returned like a rat coming back to a ship.
I've thought about that too.
I'm like, oh, hey, guys. What's up? I'm back.
Right.
Let me port over. Yeah, like who wants to reblog and freak out in the tags. Which brings me like delightful joy, which I think like on Twitter it's really hard to get that. I think there's like, first of all, half the time my notifications are broken.
Right.
And then, other times I don't see when someone like @s me or messages me, let alone replies to me. So it's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna throw this into the dark and maybe someone will say something, or it's like trying to talk with like two cans on a string. Am I gonna actually hear the person or not?
If I did not have, if I didn't always use a TweetDeck and have columns for mentions and DMs, and one specifically that just is Indiepocalypse, I would miss probably 90% of the things that I see.
Oh God. It's the worst.
Yeah, I still like miss stuff somehow. Like it just kind of, I don't know, collapses weird or what. It's just like it's not a thing. I think that like works, but it's that weird in between ground where not everyone can go to like I think events work better, but they're also like you said getting increasingly expensive, getting increasingly you can only fit so many people in this space.
Yeah.
And if you're not in
And
like a major U.S. region, sometimes it's also trickier to go to events.
oh, absolutely. And even like, what is it? This year was the first time I tabled at Emerald City Comic Con, which like for me is a big con because it's
Yeah,
one of the larger Comic Cons. It's been around for quite some time. And even then, I'm just like, damn, just to get here from the East Coast was almost $2,000. Like,
yes,
flight, splitting a hotel room, table cost, all that jazz. And then it's like, that's not counting production cost.
right.
And then you're like, okay, cool. I'm gonna actually, am I gonna make back this money? I don't know, because I know there was like at least one publisher who was, they weren't advertised on the program. They were really put in a not great spot, and it's like you can't control that. Like no one
Right.
really knows where, like, one, where we're gonna be in an artist alley, and two, like, just because you made it into artist alley, unfortunately, doesn't mean that everyone is going to be buying things, and that's always like anxiety
Yeah,
inducing.
yeah. There's that. Right. There's like what does the crowd want to buy? Is this a crowd that's going to buy like or sometimes I'm sure plenty of times there's plenty of crowds that like will probably never touch original work. It's like strictly I want fan art prints. This is what I'm here for. Uh, and then and there you look at it, and then there's some people like me who are like the weird outliers who are like, yes, you draw anime. Congratulations. I want to see what you draw. I want to see what your stuff is.
Yeah. I mean, I like bring a mix of things. So
Yeah.
I want to say most of my stuff is fan art, but that's literally part of it is, you say, "Oh yes, your pretty art drew me," and I'm like, "Yeah." And then my table setup is very sparkly and pretty,
Yeah.
and I have like LED candles and like things that make people laugh, and they're just like, "Okay, cool. I want to check out this person's art."
Yeah. Yeah.
Weirdly enough, like, sorry,
No. Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
like sometimes my original stuff does better than my fan art, and I'm like, but I poured so much into this fan art stuff.
Yeah. I
Why
wonder how
isn't
much.
anyone buying it?
I wonder how much of that is. Yeah. Like like your really nice table setup is just like you're drawing people to you and your table, and then they're like fully bought in, and then it doesn't matter what they like what thing they recognize on your table. They just want to be like, hey, I want to see what this artist has to offer.
Yeah.
And that's like I'm working on my third iteration of a table or fourth iteration of a table for next Saturday.
Oh,
And there's
nice.
like that itself is a whole other like art form that you need to consider.
Yeah. I mean, my table keeps on changing whether or not like I have a solo table or
Yeah.
I'm splitting with someone, or I'm smuggling someone in on,
Yeah.
on the
Right.
down low,
Right.
you know,
A helper, if you
a
will.
helper or
Yes.
two
Yes.
who, I'm also paying and we're collabing on stuff, so no one can say, why are these people here? They're not on the list. And I'm like, shh,
Yeah. Right.
for
Right.
collab, it's all good.
It's like you expect me to sit here for 9 hours by myself? They're just helping me out, and
Right?
and they're friends.
And
Imagine indie artists not collaborating. What kind of world would
right?
that be? Uh,
A very sad one, I would say.
yes. Yes. No. There's. It's. it's. It's how it works. People like bounce off of each other and like work on. I mean, there's so much like Indiepocalypse comes out of the whole fanzine comics anthology culture.
Yes. Good
It is.
shit. We love it.
It is
Oh,
like
sorry. Am I not allowed to curse?
no, you're allowed to curse as much as you want.
Okay, great.
I only don't because that's just a personal habit I've always had where I tend to match the curse level of whoever I'm talking to. So I start at the baseline of 0 and then sometimes work my way up to be a real
A real sailor.
yes, truly. That that kind of the shit creeps in, as they say.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that is it. That is what it comes very much is like because it's a way for you to like a lot of people just to get their work in one spot. It's a way for you like to get paid,
Yeah.
and not have to invest like It's not something that's like ride or die by what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like artists have enough on their backs that it's nice to just be able to. I made something. Somebody else can take care of it now.
Yeah, I mean, and like part of it, I do comic stuff, and I have some like original stuff that I publish or
Yeah.
like that's been in the works. But lately, what I've been doing or have been involved in is like comics anthologies. Again, hit or miss. Some of them are wonderful.
Yeah.
Some of them, my collaborators are great, but then, sometimes the organization is a little bit, not
Right.
the
Yes.
greatest. I'm not going to name names
No.
because,
No. Listen, we are not. We are not a shit
I'm
stirring show.
respectful like that. But, like the thing that really brings a lot of joy is like collaborating and seeing like a project, an idea, start from like, you know, chicken like pencil scratches on a napkin into
Yeah.
like a full-fledged book. Like I think that's super cool. Or like a zine. Like good shit. I love like binding zines and I'm super drawn to like original stuff from artists because I think that's really interesting to me. Because it's also like, oh shit, someone made this and this like really resonated with me.
Yeah.
Like, I want to make stuff like this too.
Right. Right. And that is so much how like independent work flourishes. Is that because they don't have to. You don't have to worry about. I mean, it's nice if you hit like a real broad audience, but if you aim broad, a lot of companies are aiming broad with also tens of thousands and millions of advertising dollars as well. So it's kind of
and sometimes they can't replicate that like
yeah,
fan community slash like, oh hey, this thing was written by like real or like this thing was made by like cool folks.
right,
I like them. You should support them.
yeah,
Like word of mouth really, goes a long way. Like I know everyone probably says that, but it's really true. Like,
yeah. Oh, everyone is especially thinking about word of mouth right now.
I am thinking of a specific
Yes.
time horror related book.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, I'm like, wait a minute. I thought that book already actually had like a really strong moment. Like I thought I heard about that book like 4 or 5
Yeah,
times.
it
Already.
came out in 2019, and one of the writers, Amal, was is an absolute sweetheart, and was kind enough to like email me an early copy before the book came out in print.
Yeah.
And I was just like, hell yeah. Like, I love to see, like, good folks who do good things, like, and write really wonderful stuff. Like, let's go. Like, let's have this resurgence. Why the hell not?
Right. That's like the beauty of art is that it's got a long. It does like I said at the top. It doesn't get worse when it gets older, usually, but like it doesn't always.
Usually,
Sometimes you go, ugh, that didn't age very well.
Sometimes you're just like, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe we were thinking differently back then. Maybe some people, like the broad consensus thought was a little different. And hey, wasn't right then, isn't right now. But we weren't thinking about it as much back then.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, but yeah, generally I would say good work stays good. It doesn't get bad because it was made 10 years ago. Suddenly, it's like.
And yeah, 10 years ago is like not that long.
Right. Very.
I know it feels long to
Yeah.
say like, oh shit, that's a decade, but it's like it's not that long.
No. Yeah, it's like, in the long span of human existence, 10 years is a tiny blip. In the scheme of the universe, 10 years is nothing. But hey, I think it's important to I try to as I get older, and I don't fall into that trap of the idea of a week went by in an hour. It's like I try to stay focused on experiencing every moment of every day and filling it with something.
Nice. I mean, that's honestly something I need to work on because most of my time is like, I blink and I'm like, oh shit, that's a whole week gone. What the fuck?
Right. It's,
Where am I?
Might I recommend being very busy constantly with 8 million different things, which it sounds like you probably are anyway. But also, I think that sometimes it's like that busyness can also go both ways, where because you're so busy, and by the time you finally sit down, you feel like you're done with everything. You're like, it's Tuesday. You're like, wait, no, it's Saturday. How did this take all week?
That was me today, actually. I was like, oh yeah, I have plenty of time before I have to hop on this lovely show. And I'm just like, oh wait, it is 1:50? Where the hell did the morning go?
Yeah, and I was when you emailed me earlier, I was at the post office sending things out.
Oops.
I was like, no, that was perfectly fine. But I was also pressed for time. Where I was like, I gotta squeeze all this stuff into a weekend. I still haven't done I tried to get my royalties done this morning. I didn't get them in yet, but I'll get them done after the show. I like to get them. I like to get them out. I like to be reliable. Once a week, so that people know, so that people are like, yes, I gotta. You know what I gotta do that I'm very bad at doing. I'm very bad at that whole advertising the imprint store. Which is
hello. I didn't even realize, or rather, I forgot until you mentioned there was the imprint store.
Yeah, your cover was the reason I said, hey, I should make a store, because somebody came to my booth.
Oh,
At an art thing.
I feel so special.
And he was like, oh my god, I really love this cover. Can I get? You have like post? I'm sorry, I don't. And then I made one, but I haven't. He hasn't come back to that flea market since.
Right. Well. Hopefully, maybe he'll buy it online.
I'm hoping. It's like I gotta get better at advertising that thing. It's just when you have 8 million things spinning around in a circle, you're like, if you don't get in the routine of one of them, it just never gets done.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's like even now, me just talking to you about it, it's putting it front of mind.
Write it down.
To be like, I've tried that before. I've never been very good at task lists or writing things down or any of those sorts of like organizational structures. I've always been like, I don't know, I have piles of stuff lying around that needs to get done, and then I want to put them away desperately, so that makes me get things done.
I feel that. I'm a bit of a mix of both. Like, I'll keep it in my head and then something will happen and I completely forget, and I'm just like, you know what, let me write this down on a sticky note and it'll be right in front of my face. Hopefully that'll work. If not, well, then we'll deal with the shit when it happens.
Yeah, that's why I love email, because I can email people and then I've got emails sitting around. That's kind of like, I guess, an unofficial task list of just like messages I've sent to people and that they've sent in return.
It's a thing. You have it in writing. It exists somewhere. You can always look back.
Yeah,
and reference it.
It's also why I try to keep it all in one place, because for whatever happens to Twitter, Instagram, Discord, whatever, email probably not going away anytime soon.
Probably not.
I think it's probably here to stay.
Yeah. Probably. Most likely. Although I do have a friend who just started a new job, and for some reason they just do not use email at all. And I'm like, how? Yeah. One, I wish I had your job. Two, I sort of don't want your job because I would not remember anything at all if it's not written down somewhere where I can find it. So.
And I'm also worried because what do they use instead? Like Slack or Teams or some other business messenger?
Probably, maybe.
Yeah, that seems more terrifying because there's, to me, at least, maybe this is like a thing of showing my age, but there's like mentally, email is the thing you can get to when you get to it. If someone was
absolutely.
to message me, I feel obligated to respond immediately.
Oh, I'm the same way. I've worked way too many jobs where I've had managers who weren't the greatest, and they
Yeah.
were like, why didn't you respond to me within the first like 30 seconds of me messaging you? And I'm
Yes,
like,
I've
Jesus,
got
okay.
I've gotten used to that within the past year of making ample use of the thumbs up emoji of
Yeah.
yes,
Oh, a
message
thumbs up goes a
received.
long way.
But speaking of message thumbs up, nope, never mind. We've got a question here though. As we're
Oh, sure.
we're cresting towards the end of our segment here. As speaking of time flying by rapidly, we've got one here, and I'm going to say one unofficially because it's been
Okay.
asked every week. We got a question from, and now I'm going to modify this slightly in your case. Oh, you know what? Let me modify it slightly again in two different ways. It's a question here from the last Yuri Samurai, and it's about being a game developer. But since you are not a game developer, I'm going to ask two-part questions. The most straightforward translation of the question of what made you want to be an artist? Do you remember?
I think so. When I was a lot younger, a lot
Yes.
younger, I would always be drawing, and I think it really wasn't until like I want to say I was in high school, which was over 10 years ago now, and really getting into like making original characters with friends, which these are people who are now my like family, and we still occasionally roleplay in these like made up worlds that we have.
Yeah.
But it's really the idea of like taking something like, like telling narrative stories. And, that's how I sort of transitioned. I still do a lot of illustration, but it's part of the reason why I do comics and why I want to do more comics is similar with like how in games you are most of the time on a hero's journey where, you are going through this world, you have to do something and there's a story that unfolds and that sort of emotional connection that you get as a player or as a viewer is something that I really connect with. So I think it's always been there and it's sort of been like an emotional outlet because life is a doozy and
Yeah.
sometimes you get a shitty hand given to you, which has sort of been my run of the mill in life. So, sort of escaping and taking a pause from like the day to day chaos or stress or, bad news, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever happens.
An outlet for something, for
Yeah,
just something
yeah,
inside of you that you can't. It's like a person you can talk to when you don't necessarily have an easy person that you can just tell these things to.
yeah, for sure. And I think part of it is also, for me, it's a way to like stim and decompress. So a lot of the time, part of like the indie apocalypse cover that I did was a lot of like these repetitive patterns, right? And they're like sort of morphing all over the page, and it's
Yeah.
very like a collage almost. So part of that is like what I do on pen and paper. I just mindlessly start to doodle, and then somehow from that little doodle comes something larger. So I think it's always just been a part of me, and it's something that I just keep on working on, even though sometimes I want to give up on it. But, you know, does that answer the question?
That does. Yeah. No. That more than answers the question. To do a little sidebar to it. You said you've done some illustration work for tabletop. Have you ever thought about dabbling in it yourself? I know some people like to just like try like, oh, I'll just try making like a one-page thing, or
I've definitely thought about it. I've made some like little games in like Twine, but they were all for like grad school assignments.
right.
But I've thought about it. I think for me, part of me is like, okay, but what are the ground rules? Like, how simple can this be, or what makes this even like a one pager? What makes this complete? But it's definitely something I've thought about partaking in.
And one final question, not official on the list, but unofficially asked every week, and I just don't know how to not ask it anymore. So I'm
Sure.
assuming that Mochi missed asking the question of Michims, do you have a favorite Toho character?
Oh shit. Um,
Is that oh shit I don't know or oh shit this is a difficult decision?
this is a difficult decision.
Okay.
But there's so many. There's so many that I love.
What
You can't do this to me.
I'm doing it to you right now. I'm ambushing with you. This is gotcha journalism at its finest.
God. Okay, you're gonna have to you're gonna let me think about it.
Okay.
There's
What
so many.
what if I let you think about it? We'll come back to you after the next segment.
Hell yeah. Let's do
Okay.
that.
We'll
Yes.
let you think on it over the break. We'll
I
have
will.
our next guest on, and then if you got something, we'll check in as you check over your different
Absolutely.
charts and analyze which
I gotta update my tier list. Like, come on.
right. You have to think how much do I love the Scarlet Blood Castle or whatever.
Right?
That my limited Toho knowledge, that is like maybe where my heart lies. There's something about the aesthetics of that I like. But anyways, Michinos, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Glad to have you stick around while we go to the break and we meet our next chat with our next guest. But in the meantime, we're gonna go to break and be back in like 2 minutes and 26 seconds. Goodbye. Hello, and it came in hot that time because I was adjusting all this stuff because of the pledge drive where I was kind of all over the place audio wise. But that was the Andrew is late to organizing the playlist special with Corona by Minutemen. The double nickels on a dime coming in from a clutch once again, and for coming in clutch for the next 38 weeks if I'm desperate and I like him. It's also one of those things. Anyway, I'm not gonna get too bogged down in with the. I remember the idea of like, hey, what I think is obvious, maybe not other people think is obvious. But anyway, speaking of not obvious, despite my best intentions, that's what the zine is all about in a lot of ways, is being like, hey, I, of course, know a lot about a lot of these games, but hey, maybe not everyone else does, and I want everyone else to know about these games. So, joining me is a game developer from casting back earlier than issue 11, issue 8 of Indiepocalypse with Distortion Nation. Is Tangle Virus. Hello, how are you doing today?
Hi. I'm okay. I'm pretty okay. Pretty happy to be here.
Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to ask you a difficult question right off the bat. I'm going to ask you
Let's go.
to cast your mind back 32 months and or 33 months, and I need to know, how did you hear about Indiepocalypse?
So I was in a Discord server.
Okay.
I don't remember which it was, obviously game dev related, and someone commented about it. And I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. Let me see. Oh, submit your game. Okay. Oh, look, I have a game
Yeah.
that I'm really proud of. I should put it in there. And then I did. And then it was on Indie Apocalypse, and I was like, wow, that was really cool.
Yeah, that is, and oh my God, there's so. Now I remember because I usually will check out people's like pages once they submit things, and your page much bigger than when you submitted, 37 months ago.
Yeah, I kind of. A lot of people that know me in game dev are like, wow, you're really prolific. And I'm like, I can't be that prolific. And then I look at my page
Yeah,
and then other people's pages, and I'm like, yeah,
yeah, because
yeah.
I think it was one of. I don't remember if Distortion Nation was the newest, but it was very close when you submitted that. And now there's probably like 12 or 15 more games since then.
It was the biggest game I did for a while. It's still the first game I can say that I'm very, very proud of.
Yeah.
Even if I think I became a better writer and artist and game dev at the time, but I'm really happy for it, and it wasn't just me. Bio and I forgot the name of the other part, Satellites
Yeah.
help me make the game, and Bio did a really great job with the UI and the editing. They were very careful with editing in a way that it was still clearly a game written by me,
Yeah.
but also with, actual editing by a person whose first language is English.
Yes, that's one thing that's a help, and like editing in games is also a big help. There's
Yeah.
sometimes
Um,
I play a game and I think, wow, this could use someone who just says, hey, what if you didn't have so much in it? Like, repeat your ideas 2 or 3 times, and I think your work would be stronger sometimes with not your work, but I'm saying the broader game development. Like,
yeah.
if they just
Um,
trim sometimes, and that is it's a nice person.
sometimes
Sorry.
sometimes I play a game and I'm like, if I can see that there's some mistakes in here, imagine people that know English better than me.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And it's super helpful because English it's a very strange language to come to. Um, it's got a lot of like idiosyncrasies. Now I've got my own head. Speaking of English, I got my own head, and I don't even remember. Like, I think I'm 90% is idiosyncrasies. Yes, idiosyncrasies. The more I say it, the more it sounds like a real word. Um, it's got a bunch of weird shit in it. That's what I'm trying to say. Yes, I did get it. Idiosyncrasies. I was like, I got two. You know what? Because I wanted to call it idiosyncratic, and then I adjusted my sentence midstream, but my brain was still thinking idiosyncratic. Anyway, odd shit in English.
Weird
but
stuff.
but anyway, enough of all of that. So tell me what. So what is for those unfamiliar? What is Distortion Nation about? Like what? How would you describe Distortion Nation?
It's a game about being in deep shit and then learning to accept that you have people out there counting on you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because there's a I don't know how I'm very excited often by like the visual novel space is probably one of the most exciting little spaces on itch because it's very much it's thriving. Like you wouldn't think looking at mainstream game press where visual novels are usually like cheeky little fun tie-ins or whatever to KFC, but uh,
Like, I feel that is because I'm not going to say it's the writers in particular,
yeah,
but like, it, because you can arrive to your boss and be like, hey, boss, I want to write about this visual novel. And then your boss is going to say, look, it seems really cool what you want to do. But unfortunately, if you if you talk about it, it won't drive as
right.
many clicks as, I don't know, a Zelda.
Yes, right. I'm sure there's somewhere a Zelda visual novel is gonna get a real someone's working on their Ganondorf dating sim right now, and
Someone is working on the epic visual novel where you can go on a okayish date with Tingle.
yes, and I'm here using the word dating sim in extreme quote marks. I think a lot about uh, was it? I'm forgetting their name now, but they did Coquette Dragon. I think it's just Ivy is what they go by, maybe.
Ivy.
Yeah, they
Ivy.
they had made. Was it IB?
I think it's Ivy.
Yeah, okay. I think that was what was throwing me off there. But I remember something they said once is like, "Are you making a visual novel or are you making a dating sim or a visual novel with branching choices? And it's like a visual novel with branching choices. Um, but the
Like, I see no shame in making
no,
a dating scene because there's some really good dating sims out there. Uh, Validate, I think it's the name, is
yes,
essentially a dating scene about meeting people in your area. DocuSay is a classic of the genre and basically created the dating scene as we know it. And like, it's such a cool game to play because it, you can clearly see that even in the remake, there was a very dedicated team behind it that was working on this for hours to be like, hey, we want people to play this and have a really fun time. And I don't know. I think dating sims require a lot of efforts,
yes,
and they're pretty cool.
yeah. There's a lot of like it's this it's they can be a weird thing where they are, uh, they're like they're like RPGs except about story or something.
Yeah,
Um, to give them the most boiled down version. If I was to be clever and put in a log line, but anyway, yeah. Well, because I was just thinking about like because I was like, oh yeah, I saw that you're, because I'm on the Distortion Nation page right now looking at images, and just like scrolling up and down because it's like I keep focus on my second monitor, but that was translated into German, and that is
yeah. At the time, we made it for a jam. I think it was um, I think it was for Nani Rent. No, I don't remember
I
anymore.
believe looks like it to me. I'm looking at it right here, 2020
Oh,
plus.
then yeah. So we made it for the jam, and like I think it was Bayo. I'm not sure anymore. It's been some. There was a pandemic in the middle
Yes,
of
yes,
then and now. It's
yes.
weird. And
Uh,
like someone on the team that wasn't me knew someone that could translate the game to German, and I was like, "Yo, German is a language.
right.
Let's go do
Yeah.
this." Yes.
There's so much of that that's I think that's part of what makes that scene so exciting is that you'll see like a visual novel, a free visual novel, no Steam, no Switch, no releases anywhere, and it's translated into like 6 languages, because
Yeah.
there's just like a passion around them, and
Like I think Butterfly Soup, which is also free and
yeah,
great and really good, has been translated to a bunch of languages. And I look at that and I'm like, you know what? I should replay that now in Brazilian Portuguese.
yeah, right. Because I think a lot of what these games do is they touch into more like personal experiences and universal in the sense, not in the broad sense, but universal in that they reach a lot of different people. Usually, I think you underestimate. It's easy to like go text and pictures is not even a game or whatever, but that kind of like condescension. I think that sometimes comes hand in hand with gameplay or whatever. But there's like nothing is more raw gameplay than clicking through text, if you ask me. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, it's
That's
like
the purest test of skill.
yes, there's a fundamental experience to like. I bet if you sat a bunch of people down, you would see that they all played visual novels differently. People read
Yeah.
and click, and they have different text speeds, and they advance text at different rates. And there's like how you interact with the game is like such a crucial part of
I
it.
I read quite fast, and usually when a visual novel has voices, I finish reading before the the character finishes speaking.
Right.
So it's kind of odd. And I'm like, sorry to interrupt you. I need to know what happens next. Click.
Right. Like
Wow.
I, it's a weird thing where you like I've heard your voice enough that I kind of like am hearing in my head you say the rest of the line already, so I can just go through the next bit, unless you're going to get a real surprising reading from that. But yeah, it's a different approach. I've tried sometimes of just like, no, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to let him finish all the lines, but I'm also a quick reader, so I sometimes I don't usually commit to that.
Depending of the game and if I'm replaying it, I just put it on auto if the option exists
Right.
and let it go.
Yeah. That's the other, like, there's a shorthand even to like to how Renpai works, because it's such like the common standard for that sort of thing. I also occasionally do um, the convenience of everyone using it. Sometimes I'll be like playing games and like doing my curation step, and I'll come across something and I'll be like, this feels like it's running along, so I can put in a save file, and luckily Renpai can just hit tab, just fire through everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that was a lot of text. It's a good thing I did not try to do this at 10:30 at night. Uh, I would not have finished it. But games, they're speaking of games, speaking of making games. This is a question I assume that was more specifically directed towards you.
I believe so as well.
This is from The Last Yuri Samurai, who wants to know, what made you want to be a game developer?
Excellent question. And once I was a very tiny child, as we all were at some moments,
Yeah.
I hope.
I think
Yeah.
we could have I don't know if there are any Benjamin Buttons in the chat or not.
I don't know. Maybe Cthulhu is
Yes.
watching.
And actually, to be fair, I've never seen that movie, so I don't know if he starts off as a big old man or not, or if he does start off as a
No, he
baby.
starts as a baby of an old man.
Oh, okay. So never mind then. I don't know. Maybe there are.
It's the only thing I know about that movie, and it's kind of burned into my head.
Now that is probably the second thing. That's probably the only like concrete fact I know what happens on film. The only thing I knew previously being the plot or the general concept. But yeah, no. So when you were a tiny baby? Let's go back to the beginning.
When I was
baby.
a tiny baby, I played. I think it was Fatal Fury 3.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, I wish I could do something like that. And that's always been something that's been kind of in my head for a very long time.
Yeah.
And life is weird and it takes turns. And sometimes the turns are for the very odds, sometimes for the bads. And one day you are just like, I played both very good games on each. So I'm going to spend a week doing that. And then I played One Night Hot Springs and was like, oh, that was made of a thing called Renpai. What is this? Oh, it's for free. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Maybe I could just make a visual novel. And I saw that there was a game jam starting, and it would be 1 month. So in 2019, I was like, I think 30 days is enough time, no pressure, to learn how to make a visual novel.
Yes.
How
was that?
It might sound like it was a lot of pressure, but like one thing that I kind of good at is scheduling my own time.
Yeah.
So I made a little schedule. I was like, okay, I can do this. And I made my first visual novel, which was Ink and the Flying Machine. It's not great, but I had a lot of fun making it.
Yeah.
And I think, to me, that's what matters the most. And I hope if someone plays it, they can understand that it's not great, but they can see that I had a blast making it.
Yes, that is I get a lot of the submissions I most love getting on this like curation end, even when I think they're like not great, is that when I feel like the person enjoyed making the game, like they wanted to make the game. There's nothing more boring, I guess, to put it simply, on my side than a game that is boring, but also it doesn't seem like a person wanted to make it. And I would always like the passion gets through, and it's often like passion in art is like contagious, you know.
Yes.
It's why
Like,
people love bad art even, because
yeah, like, I think to me, as a person, any game or any piece of art that makes you want to make art
yeah,
is good.
yes, yeah, no, I I feel the same way about yeah, especially bad art does make me fired up about art because it's like this person, this like real estate agent with too much money made a movie. Anyone can make movies. It's just
Yeah,
it's like the passion, like, oh, I can just make this. I can. Anyone can make anything that they want to make, and like I think it can be very easy for commercialism to kind of applies crushing pressure to you to be like you have to make a perfect release that hits all the press outlets. It's a perfectly made release. Everyone's so happy about it, but it's like it's a bad way to think about art, I think, especially making it.
yeah. I don't remember the tweets exactly, but IB from Coquette Dragon made
Yeah,
something a long time ago that was basically to just make what you want
yeah,
and kill the Netflix demon in your head. Because if you're making art and holding yourself back for being commercial or something like that and to appeal to the masses, you're not going to make something that is good.
right, right, and
You need to make something that is yours. And like Koketsu Dragon, I know that a lot of people keep talking about the weird sex stuff, which is great, by the way.
yeah,
But also, it's a really cool mech story. So, and so you see how people are liking Koketsu Dragon so much, and I think it's the best argument for what she was trying to say.
yeah, yeah. It's I th- and I sometimes I've been telling people talking in privately that it's like also, I mean, if you're still worried about uh, any kind of success or not, it's these are the kind of works that also have like this were the kind of things that people stick to long term and like discover, rediscover, and it's kind of it's disheartening as a person it can be to tell someone, trust me, you'll be really successful 10 years from now. Uh, but it's like there's a longevity to that kind of very personal or passionate art that I think
Yeah,
pays off
I
too.
think it's I think it happens a lot with games, visual
Yeah,
novels games.
like
Like, uh, I love the game Pathologic. It's a bad game, but a amazing experience.
right.
And when Pathologic 2 came out, sometime afterwards, I think it was an article somewhere, where one of the creators was like, oh, the initial sales weren't great, but people with time are finding the game and buying it, so we're good.
Yeah,
Like, there's that. It takes time. It
right,
just
right.
takes time.
And speaking of a very singular focused, what's the word I'm looking for? Like someone who's like who knows the shit they like to do and is gonna do that for the rest of their life. Tangle Virus, I got to ask you the question, the what is becoming the second unofficial Indiepocalypse question. Do you have a favorite Toho character?
It's Pacioli.
Perfect, thank you.
I'm showing my age here,
Yeah,
and it kind of hurts me because this question is basically me taking a gun and taking my older favorites Tohos to the
yeah.
backyards.
Oh,
But
that's
I have to say, uh, it's Pacioli.
well. Thank you. Sometimes you have to recognize that you must grow up and put away childish things. uh, and find yourself with truly knowledge. Yes, that is that, and that is within that resident. Is that within the Scarlet Mansion?
Like, she was the first Toho I saw and was like, I don't know what this is. Let's go.
Yes, that is. Listen, it's a Toho. It's cool. I think
It's cool.
Toho's cool. Cool vibes, great aesthetics. Love that Zune is always just chilling with the beer. I'm a huge one. Seems like
Zoom is a happy man. He sits down, makes his weird game, he draws some weird goals, and is like, here's my dragon girl. Her name is, I don't know, Catherine Zeta Fire.
yeah,
And her power is she can make ice.
it
She's
is.
the first boss. Enjoy.
It is. Where is the kind of attitude I aspire to in my game dev work, and I feel like
Me too.
I feel like I'm getting real closer to that kind of. I say not knowing the person at all, but through my Google image search impressions of him.
Like, I think I got that energy recently because not my most recent, in one of my most recent games, I had way too many games.
Yeah.
Tell Me Tonight was real. I was just, okay, I need the protagonists. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to draw a butch lesbian who happens to be a vampire and she has a sword.
Yes, just
And she dresses like Rasputin from one of the Shin Megami Tensei games. That's it.
yeah, just put.
And
No one's stopping you from putting all the design elements you like onto one thing.
yeah,
Well,
like, and people like the character, and I'm like, you know what? I understand Zoom now. He just does his thing.
yeah, and it's the vibe you want to go with. And speaking of vibes you want to go with, we're gonna go on to a break vibe very soon.
Nice.
Tango Virus, thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's after this 8-hour madness thing I did last week. It's good to have just a couple people and hang out for only like 2 hours or whatever, however long it ends up being. We'll be back in like 2 minutes and 24 seconds approximately.
Nice.
Hello and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was Don't Let Me Explode by the Hold Steady. Is that another thing I'm showing my age? Is the Hold Steady a band for old people? I don't know sometimes. But to me, it's like, it's summer. I don't know why it's summer vibes for me. And maybe summer rural stuff. I don't know what it is. There's something about it. But anyway, we're back on the show with the whole gangs here. But Michium's, we made an important breakthrough during the break, which is you've landed on your favorite Toho character.
It's Romelia Scarlet.
Perfect. Thank you. So once again, Scarlet Mansion representing strong this episode, with Patchouli, Romelia, and Andrew being undecided, but generally a fan of the mansion's aesthetic and its occupants. They're precocious goths or whatever. I don't know what it is. I like them. There's just something.
They're just a bunch of weirdos, and they are unapologetic about it, and that's great.
What's not to love?
Yeah.
What's not to love?
There's they're the ones with all the weird There's so many of them with weird wings. A character with knives that stops time is exactly the kind of thing that a 14-year-old's like, this is the character I design. It's got that aesthetic. That kind of I forget what I don't know if there is a word that I'm looking for it, but it's a vibe that's hard to describe. It's not try hard, but there's something I don't know if there's a word for it, but like the stuff you make when you're in middle and high school and you think is the coolest shit in the world.
Edgy.
Yes, you have something in that vein where it's like they're all like gothic maids and ladies, and they live in a big castle and they're vampires with gem wings.
What's not to love? What's not
What's,
to
I
love?
know.
what's not to love?
I keep describing all good things, which is like, hey, encourage your inner middle schooler, who isn't beaten down by the worries of public opinion.
The good thing about growing up and making arts is that you can make that little and weird 14-year-olds that you were a long time ago really proud
Yeah.
because you sit down one day and say, I'll make a guy and his hands make things explode.
It's exactly what we need all the time.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's like why does this? It doesn't matter because it's very cool. Yeah. There's I can't believe I had noticed the socks banner. And this pendant rather in this thing. I'm sorry, I got distracted by my own break music gif because I didn't notice there's a Red Sox pendant in it. All this time, and I forget. Yes, all those Harvard guys writing for The Simpsons. Fucking Cambridge dorks. But anyway, sports. What are those things all about?
Well, what is that?
You go outside, they play baseball. I remember there's a beauty to the idea that you can just play baseball in the streets. and the play. I don't know why I thought about that recently when I was driving, and I saw storm drains across from each other. I'm like, yes, first and third base. But anyway, video games. Let me try to get back on. Let me try to zone back in on hosting. I'm a host after all. I have to host this damn show. So what is we've asked about favorite Toho character, but are either of you familiar with Toho in terms of playing it or just like conceptually?
I played quite a few of the games.
Okay.
I haven't played most of the games. It's actually been years since I last played a Toho game. But I just remember being like a teenager and finding art of like the Toho cast and being like, oh, this is so cool, what the heck?
Right.
And then just never leaving.
There's a teenage, especially if you're like coming from maybe a certain age of like exploring, like slowly understanding and learning what Toho is, because I feel like I was aware of it very young, but I had no conception of what it was. Other than like all these girls have a similar vibe to them because they're all from the same thing, and this thing is called Toho. But
I think I found out a bit older than most people.
Yeah.
But I saw that and was like, oh, that's really cool. I played quite a lot of the games. And that's actually how I got into shoot 'em ups. But before knowing what Toho was, I would usually see fan art of these girls and be like, there's something going on.
Right.
I think this is a government psyop.
They're trying to figure. They're trying to catch us somehow. They're trying to.
The CIA is trying to catch me again, shaking my head.
Listen. The CIA is always up to something.
It's not one thing, it's another.
Right there.
Yeah.
But the Central Intelligence Agency aside, let me do a quick refresher real quick. Nothing. Good. So I can close that officially. But important thing, did either of you have any question for either of the other guests, or for me, or just like in general to the room? Not a requirement to come up with one on the spot. More that like
Nothing comes to my head.
something I need to ask that sometimes. Usually because I'm the one here running my mouth, asking all the questions. and it's nice to do that.
Okay, well, I have a question.
Okay.
What are your future plans for future issues of Indiepocalypse?
Oh, I have one that I can't talk about.
Oh,
So I can be. I want to be that person where I say I have a thing I can't talk about, which I do. I do officially have a thing that I can't talk about and have had for a little while. But my future plan is really just to keep on trucking. you know, I like. It's just kind of like it's a weird thing to say that it's on autopilot for how much organizational work it takes, but when you do it for 40 months in a row, you get into the rhythm of it.
yeah.
I do really like these physical editions, and I want to figure out more ways to incorporate stuff. What I want to do is I really want to get more. I want to get more focus. Like I've been writing little features of like, hey, here's some games you should play, whether they're like in individual themes or like just like pairings of games, and I want to do more stuff along that angle. Like I want to be really neat if all their like each artist involved, like game developer and cover artist, had like someone wrote a little profile on them,
Oh, that's cute.
or
That's cool.
or did like an interview with them. But that's one of those things that's like, beyond the scope of what I can do. I'm not an interviewer, and I've always been very uncomfortable writing about people, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I can write about their work, but when I'm writing about a person, it's always felt strange to me, even though it's not really, and even though I don't think it's a strange thing to do, I'm just personally find that kind of writing difficult. But there's a lot going on. Do either of you have unofficial I can't talk about them projects?
Oh no, I can't talk about them.
The beauty
I'll
of
just spend
independent
some
art.
time here.
Yes.
Like,
I mean,
you start first. No? Okay, so
no, go. You go. I'm still thinking.
so right now I'm working on what's definitely the longest thing I ever wrote, which is a cyberpunk visual novel. It still doesn't have a name, and in fact, the name of its Word documents is Document 1.
Naming things is for cowards. I don't.
It's really hard.
I don't subscribe to it.
It is hard.
My system is usually
But
music that I'm listening to.
like, it's so far the longest thing I've written. I am planning to make a demo / proof of concept / first chapter and show this to publishers and just be like, hey, can you give me some money and publish this?
Yeah.
Or just publish this and not give me money. Thank you.
Yes. Although I do wish they give me some money if they're publishing it.
It's like that meme. I give you a cyberpunk game full of weird stuff and communism. You give me some money.
That is,
and like,
yeah.
Yeah?
That is the true dream of the money in return.
Yeah, so I have plans in case I can get a publisher.
Yeah.
This game will come out either one way or the other. And after that, I'm going to explore some things that I really like in writing, like stuff like codes, other gods, stuff like that.
Right.
So that's that. And it's all going to be very odd, and I hope people have fun, because I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah. And like that, like we talked about earlier, that'll show. And usually if you're having fun, the people are also having fun. And there's a distinctness to it that distinctness is it's attractive, there's pleasures. What's contagious? Bamichi,
Yeah.
you mentioned. Did you also have?
I have a few anthologies that I'm going to be a part of, or slash that I am a part of, that will be hitting Kickstarter soon, or have hit Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Some of them are in the horror realm, so that's a fun avenue for me to explore.
Have you done much, a lot of horror up to now, or is it something you've only kind of dabbled in here and there?
I've dabbled a little bit. There's actually a comic that I did last year that's part of an anthology that I did the art for, but the script was done by a writer, which I had a ton of fun doing. But horror is definitely something that I want to explore more with. I think it's a really interesting medium, and maybe it's something that I can dabble with in terms of like making a game or two.
Yeah, because that's and there's more and more. There have been a lot of comics people getting into games. You know, you get a good baseline if you have really good art. But it's also there's like it brings a different like storytelling structure in some ways. You know.
Oh yeah.
Like you just like there's a different. I like the idea more of a lot of what I try to do is to like outsiders' approach to game development. Because I think sometimes within game development you can get too mired into like what makes a game, and,
Yeah.
and you kind of get be like, oh no, this is what makes a good game. This is what you need to have gameplay loops or whatever, and player feedback, and all those things you do if you're afraid to make games. And I'm just like, no. What if you just kind of did whatever you want? What if it's interactivity is such a broad medium with endless potential? Playing towards any kind of expectations is truly an impossible task.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's like something that maybe makes me hesitate. It's like, well, what makes this a game?
Right.
Right. What is a game?
Yes. No. And I would say I have an intensely broad definition of what makes a game, which is to say practically anything really. Do I interact with it? Kinetic novels are games. Even if they are just literally clicking through text with no choices. It's all games are games. It's not a movie.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
not a book. So it's got to be something.
So it's a game.
Yeah. If it's not a movie, it's not a book. It's a game. That's
Yeah.
anything that's not one of those two is a third.
I have a very broad definition of a game, and recently with some of the new games that I've been playing, I'm like, I've been playing Signalis a lot since it came out, and like that game just goes on its own tune, and you either gel with that really well or you don't. But you play with that, and it plays like you would expect a old school survival horror game. And I'm like, making a game is such a broad thing. So why don't you just do things on your own way? And if people like it, from what I'm seeing, the people that liked it a lot.
Yeah.
And the people that didn't like it are just like, okay, not for me.
Right.
So,
I feel like we're sometimes trapped too much in this idea of having a consensus on things when it's like, hey, who cares though, really? If my personal feelings don't line up with a Metacritic score,
Yeah.
that's not really related to the value of something, and that is, there's 8 million factors that go into that of like. The very fact that everyone is trying to release their reactions and reviews at the same time contributes to like how the reviews turn out in the first place.
Yeah.
And there's also like this idea of like you have to, a game needs to be defined if like it meets these like certain made up ideals by like reviewers or whatever. I
Right.
feel like sometimes that's the case. It's like, oh, was this game actually bad, or was this like you just did not vibe with the game?
Yeah, right. Or is this like not what you were expecting a game? Is this something? Is like 5 years you're gonna be like, oh, this was the best game of the year. What we were all thinking.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's one of those things where you're just not ready for it.
This kind of reminds me when I was really starting to get into games more as a teenager. I got really into the Atelier series.
Yeah, I've
And
thought.
those,
I thought about it like last week. I was like, how do I play all the Atelier games?
like, those games are really good and they all follow the same formula.
Yeah.
And I remember I would read GameSpot all the time, and the reviews of this series at the time were kind of brutal because I played the game and I would read those reviews and like this person had a very different experience than I have.
Yeah.
And like that's the nature of reviews sometimes. It's like Michun said, is the game bad or did you just didn't gel with it?
I remember to bring it all the way back to the beginning of the show and Super Giant. I remember growing up there was like a vaunted space in my heart for like the Greg Kasavin like 7.5 game, especially like if it's out of Japan, because it was like here's a very specific niche that by their like graphics, whatever their score, he can't. It's like the kind of thing that has it scores a 7's got a reviewer's tilt of 10. You know, it's like this is a very specific niche that is like, yeah, this game rules. I think is very cool, but in terms of quote unquote what a good video game is, that's ateliers are like 7's or whatever, but let's be honest, if you get into them, as someone who was thinking about playing, like, how many Atelier games are there? Probably like 16 or something.
I think it's around 20.
Yeah, I was like, that's
Yeah.
them. Like Falcom are in this very specific niche of like these long-standing series that are just like infinitely playable and just like you can get wrapped up in them, but they were like real US based 7.0 out of 10s,
Yeah.
It's a weird little like I remember growing up when no one knew what Disgaea was,
Oh God.
Oh damn.
That was one of them. That was one of those like a great, I think, let me look back. I'm pretty sure he reviewed it. And I was like, what is this game?
I vividly remember buying that game.
Yeah.
I remember starting to play that game in a time when I didn't know what English was. It was just people speaking weirdly. And I'm like, I think I can spend a lot of time in this game. And I spent, I don't know, the entirety of the lifetime of my PS2 playing that casually.
Yeah, I was right. It was a Greg Kassan review, but it was an 8.1. But it is very much like, yeah, this is also look at this website in 2023. These screenshots are very funny. We're gonna have a little treat for the chat in a second as I pull up this screenshot. These aren't just like, this isn't like a screenshot for fun. This is a screenshot on GameSpot.com's official website. I didn't do anything to adjust this in any way. Actually, I'm wondering if it'll show properly. I might have to take. You know what I'll do? I'll take a screenshot of it. Now I'm thinking. Now I'm being clever. But anyway, yeah, that is just what a. Now there's like a billion of them. What a very specific kind of like generational thing of like when did you what was your entry to this like hyper niche Japanese series? Yeah,
So it's actually this guy.
yeah, this is this guy. This is the official GameSpot clip, which is I did not have fun with the resolution. Then this is just what it looks like on their site. This is what happens when you just take a web page from 2003 and just put it on the internet unchanged. I'm like, it does, folks. It doesn't look this bad. Even on the PS2, it looks good. It's 2D art. People have belts instead of shirts. There's weird little penguin guys.
And if you throw them, they explode.
Yes, and you throw people. There, listen. There is so many like ideas. Disgaea is a game of ideas.
Yeah, it's a game of ideas.
That is, put down the back of the box. Disgaea, Hour of Darkness, 10 out of 10. Andrew, it's a game of ideas. There's just so much shit going on in that game, and I love just like it's the same
How
thing.
weird that game is.
Yeah, I recently, because I had played through the Final Fantasy VII remake, I decided to go back and play
The original?
yes, and that game also, there's just every idea they had they put in there. And it's just
I think for me, it's not. I don't think it would be considered niche now,
yeah.
but I definitely want to say probably Chrono Trigger for me.
Yeah, that is like if you were coming up in like the terms of like when you were a kid coming up in like Chrono Trigger is like what, it's super late Super Nintendo game. People are already moving on to the next thing. Like I'm trying to think of what, at least in the US, where Dragon Ball was, what was the public consciousness of Dragon Ball around the late 90s?
But it was weird.
Yeah, it was like, I feel like as a kid I was just getting like Toonami or whatever around that
Yeah. Literally, it was just Toonami and whatever, like, I think Borders was still around, so
Yes.
like whatever you can find in the DVD aisle.
Oh,
Borders.
I have a lot of I've purchased plenty of manga from Borders. I remember no one of the strangest, speaking of things that were niche at a time, I remember buying part 3, the manga of part 3 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Oh my god.
When they were releasing like one volume every 6 months or whatever back then, because nobody knew what that was. It was like no one in the US knew what JoJo was, like a Capcom fighting game maybe, but like it had no cultural impact here.
And now, look how different it is.
Yeah, now it's like it's a force. It is like a predominant anime culture. Everything is a JoJo. My childhood was in fact a JoJo reference, in that I bought it at Borders because I was a teen, and I was like, I remember seeing those Dio Brando memes of him throwing the steamroller from aforementioned Capcom fighting game, and I was like, this guy seems cool. Damn, anime is rad.
Yeah.
And then I spent the time, and I was like, no, I'm too cool for anime. I'm not a nerd. And then I went back, and I was like, actually, what if it was cool? What if it is cool? And that's kind of.
I never had a time like that where I was too cool for anime, but also I like mech anime.
Yes.
So it's always a little bit weird.
Yeah.
And now everyone and their mothers and their mothers' mothers are screaming about Witch from Mercury. And I feel validated.
Right. It's the one.
I literally just got charms in my shop for G-Witch.
It's
So
you have to find that breakthrough series, or that breakthrough like moment, and then I was like, yes, this is where we all hop on board to. Now people are talking about Zeta Gundam. It's like, what are you people talking about? Since when?
And like,
I remember.
it seems that the breakthrough
like-
moments was having a girl saying, "Yeah, you won this duel. Now you're my wife now."
Right.
Oh,
It's U10 all over again.
Yeah.
it's your turn all over again.
It's what the people craze. Oh, perfect timing, folks. The Michi's cover is on the screen right now as we're speaking. Oh, it's gone now.
Oh, nice.
But it was there. That was the. I kept trying to remember, but I kept getting focused on talking and stopped looking at the screen.
Oops.
Yeah.
How dare it's funny because, like,
yeah.
Right? How dare you do multiple things at the
How
same
dare you
time?
people be engaging to speak to?
Wow. I guess I'll leave. No.
Right.
It's like, what is it? I remember watching, like, the Count of Monte Cristo anime, and, like, okay. Visually gorgeous. The mech stuff, not the best. Not the most terrible use of CGI. Not the best. Still a fun time.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
Really good to look at, though.
Yeah, it's stunning. It is absolutely stunning.
Really, really is.
I am dangerously close to of the Indiepocalypse radio story arcs. I am getting increasingly dangerously close to, like, now that I have a dresser that was gonna get thrown away that I instead took, and I was like, it has way more space than the kind of 4 pieces of wood style table that I had there originally. And I was like, what if I put Gunpla on it?
Do it.
And I'm like, I don't know. I have to calm myself. But yeah, there's all sorts of things.
But
now,
what if you do it?
Yeah, what? Why don't you just get some Gunpla?
What's stopping you?
I know, and the thing is, they're way cheaper than I thought they were too.
They are.
I thought they were like hundreds of dollars.
No.
Yeah, like I saw the prices because a friend of mine was saying that the Aerial Gunpla was selling like hotcakes, and I'm like, that's weird. I didn't those things. Oh, it's $30.
Yeah, it's very affordable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe I should.
yeah. See, I'm spreading the Gunpla mind virus through Indiepocalypse Radio.
Oh, it's too late. I have 3 now.
Oh no, you've already contracted it.
Like, I didn't knew they were so cheap.
Yeah.
But also, again, the people crave Utena, and they made Utena with giant robots.
Yes, and that is because you cannot get more. Utena is what it is, and there's no more of it. It's not.
What's not to love?
Yeah, you're not.
What's
gonna
not
get
to
it anymore.
like?
So they've got to get it somewhere else, and I'm close to now. I'm getting very close to being Gundam brained and thinking about Gundam a lot. But
We just need a Utena that has the aesthetics of the Scarlet Devil mentioned, and the perfect anime will exist.
Yes,
Exactly.
right. That is. It just give it a little bit more time. You know, we're entering whatever, like peak Yuri hours in anime. So
Yeah.
Honestly, truly.
just like give it. There was like it's becoming on trend even. So eventually somebody will be like, what if we just made it with more vampires and wings and stuff? But anyway, I'm trying to keep this show at a reasonable length. Let's not go too crazy. I am truly restraining myself looking at the stream at my pal Cordo and trying to keep and be like let's not talk about comic books, but I do. That is one of the other things I need to buy is like I'm missing one of those like in between volumes of like those Corto Maltese books that
Oh. Don't you start on me with Corto Maltese.
Yes, yes. So we're trying to, we're gonna keep it calm there before we start talking about Corto Maltese because I'm just looking at him. I'm thinking, what a guy, what a man.
We don't need this to be 4 hours long, so don't make the tango
No,
to
no.
start on Corto Maltese.
I have a threat that one, you know how when you get popular enough, you can just make podcasts about the things that you like, and then people will listen to them.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is me with comic books. I want. Because I want there to be a show where I can talk about manga, but then I can also talk about Corto Maltese, and that's the same show. It's not.
And when that happens, ask me to be a guest.
Yes.
Because you thought 8 hours was long. Prepare for 20.
Yes. At least in English.
Just do an all day stream. Make it 24 hours. Why not?
Maybe,
Yeah, just talk about Corto Maltese.
maybe in 10 months or whatever, when I do the next pledge drive, what do they call it? I'll do a backdoor pilot for my let's get people to talk about comics this show. But I'm restraining myself because this is me trying to wrap the show up, because I try to keep it under 2 hours. We're cresting about an hour 30, and I am very bad at ending the show, so I know you got to start an hour and a half if I want to end it at 2. But yeah, because it's really a pleasure to do this show, and it's a lot of fun to do this show every week because I love chatting with people, and I don't get out to. I mean, this year I very intentionally did not get out to conventions, but I'm thinking of going back next year. But even then, like, the odds of crossing paths with the varied Indiepocalypse contributors are low.
I mean, you never know.
Right. Yeah, I do. Like, there is a possibility. I think if I ever go to Toronto, there's like a very high concentration of Indiepocalypse contributors in Toronto, and ones that know me and would probably see me at an event. That pool is the largest there, I believe. But the East Coast New England, it's not the largest. There's plenty of game devs in it, but it's not the largest game dev scene. And I focus heavily on all over the world as well anyway, so
that is true.
I'm probably not going to like outside the US anytime soon.
You're not Corto Maltese to be traveling all over the world.
Yes, if I could live the lifestyle drifting from boat to boat,
and going on wacky adventures.
Yes.
What's not to love?
Yeah.
Perfect story right there.
Yeah. And that's why Corto Maltese is great.
And the books are huge.
They are big.
They're so huge. I love those European style giant comic books.
God, yeah.
Me too.
They are delicious.
They are.
It's like, oh, I can tell this book is originally from France because it's gigantic.
Oh wow! I can use this as a cutting board.
Yes.
Oh, it's from Belgium.
I could use this for anything. I could use this as a table. It's so gigantic. Though I would never dare.
Me neither.
Oh.
But you could though.
Right. Yes. I could use it as a table. I could use it as a bookshelf for my other tiny comic books made by coward countries who wouldn't dare make a book so large. But anyway, it is cool. I have like 3 giant piles of comics lying around that I haven't touched because I've been busy and watching movies.
I'm not going to tell you how many piles of comics I have. Just in stacks.
Yeah, I have. I don't know about you, but I have a very strict rule where I also have them on shelves, like.
I do too.
Intensely organized by size, then publisher, then title. But then I'm not allowed to put them on the shelf until I read them.
That is smart.
That's the backlog is real.
Yeah, that's my rule. So that I can't that they'll just clutter eventually, and I go, well, I've got to read it now, or else I want this table space back.
I have some Gunpla statically positioned to be protecting my comic books.
Yeah, perfect.
One of my smartest decisions. Here, my addictions together at last.
Yeah, that's the other thing I realized. Oh, I can put Gunpla on top of these shelves. I also have a lot of games and like tall books up there, but I got an additional shelf that is bare now, and looking for little robots to be on it. But anyway, the only mini I have in my life is Skeleton Jelly. I don't know if I'll get another, but I do love my man Skeleton Jelly. But that all said, this is me actually. Does anyone have any last minute, not promotional stuff, but non-promotional things they want to say before I try the second time to start wrapping the show up?
If you like horror games, play Signalis. It's really good. It will break you.
Perfect.
But that's
great.
good.
Yeah.
Nice. Adding it to my list.
I love art that makes me feel bad. It makes me feel good, if that makes
Me
sense.
too.
It makes you feel alive.
Yeah.
The whole
Yeah.
horrors of the human experience.
I-
Sometimes you need a little.
Yeah. I love
Nothing better than finish a game and be like, wow, I'm sad now.
I love
I'm feeling emotions.
right. Watching a movie and go, wow, that person made a lot of bad decisions and then met an unsatisfying end. What a great experience I had. love messy people in art. With
Good stuff.
Anyway, speaking of messy people in art, what a segue. Thank you, Andrew. High five. Tangle Virus, tell me about where can people find your stuff if they're looking for it? Where can people find
You
your
can
games?
find my stuff on Tangled Virus on itch.io. I have a bunch of games. My biggest and most recent game, Tell Me Tonight Was Real, is only $5. And if you want to watch a little story about a vampire and a party girl just having a impromptu date one of these days, you can just buy it and enjoy it. Yeah.
And for $5, that's for a video game. That's practically free. Like,
And I have a bunch of free games as well.
yeah. There's so much. There are days upon days you can spend on this page. You know.
Yeah.
I really encourage people to be like to break apart that gamer brain and just like spend money on a game on itch every now and then. I feel like you will not come away unsatisfied. You'll come away and in fact I think quite the opposite. I think you'll come away extremely satisfied.
There's a lot of good stuff on itch,
Yeah.
from games to music to comics to weird little manifestos.
Yeah.
So just take a look, and you're going to find something really good.
Yeah, it's a great self-publishing platform. Wish I got paid a little faster, but everything else, fantastic. Michi, where can we find it? You mentioned these charms. Where could we get these charms?
Oh, God. Alrighty. I feel like that one meme of like SpongeBob where he's like unrolling the large scroll.
Yes.
Anyways, you can find me via my portfolio site at mechiums.carbonmade.com. You can find me on Twitter at RequiemCluey. You can find me on Instagram at Mechiums. You can find my shop at mechiums.bigcartel.com. Where else can you find me? You can find me on Tumblr at Chrysanthemum Skies. That's one whole thing. And periodically I will throw things on itch.io and then also Ko-fi. Both are under Mechiums. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, get out there, support the this artist's work, support Michi's work. Every cover of Indiepocalypse is a fierce endorsement of the artist involved. To say it's like it's not only an advertisement for the zine, it's an advertisement to be like, this person, you should hire this person to do art for you. I highly encourage it. It's like that's the point partially about me getting very like non-game developers to do art. It's I think art independent artists thrive best supporting each other in any way they can. So just like go out there and support your local artist, and whether they are physically local or local in the sense of the internet, whatever that means to you. I will say on my part, Indiepocalypse, I think it's good. I recommend you buy it. There's a lot of good games in it every single month. If you buy issue 8 of Indiepocalypse, Tango Virus here will a little bit further from now because the pledge drive just happened, so that's usually my yearly payout for the devs in Indiepocalypse. But if you buy an issue enough, eventually all these developers get royalties. If you buy,
Yay!
Yeah, it's like, hey,
Yes.
that's $7. It counts for something, I think it's a neat thing, to make something and get paid for it forever. Like if someone else is going to profit out your work, you should be profiting off it just as much. And if you go to indiepocalypse.com/store, the other thing I always forget about, and buy the cover for issue 11, Michi here also gets a bit of that, folks.
Nice.
Royalty payments on the covers. I'm very strict about rev share on like everywhere I can. I think it is very important to not consolidate wealth. Bold stance on Indiepocalypse Radio. The consolidation of wealth into a few individuals is bad for society. But that said, Indiepocalypse.com. If you want to join it, Indiepocalypse.com/submit. If you want to make a cover, just make art and wait for me to email you. That's my process. There is no process for submitting for covers. That's just how I work. Because I curate a vibe and all that, and I like to know in advance. I don't. But anyway, that all. If you want to sign up for the Patreon, if you want to just get it weekly and not have to think about it, or if you want a way to just get the games that are newly commissioned each month, you can do that too at indiepocalypse.com/Patreon. If you want to submit, I think I said /submit. That's how you get games in the thing. If you want to get physical editions, I have physical editions now. They are USB sticks inside a neat little cassette cases with nice little cover art on them. Those are indiepocalypse.com/tapes. And I think that's everything. I think I've said all the things. I don't know if there's anything else. I have so many URLs. I similarly am unrolling my giant roll of paper and going, how many redirects did I have? I think that's all of them. Oh, indiepocalypse.com/pitch. If you heard me talking and be like, I'm a writer, I want to write a profile on an Indiepocalypse contributor. You don't have to be a writer about video games. If you're a writer about people, that's because that's what it is. You're writing about people. You can go to indiepocalypse.com/pitch and say, hey, I'm a writer and this is who I want to write about. Or you can do that if you want to write one of those Indiepocalypse 10 pick lists of 10 Indiepocalypse games that you would recommend to help people get into this. Because this thing, 40 months, it's a big thing. There's a lot of games. That's over 400 games.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
How does one start at this point? And I'm trying to figure that out. Trying to help people get a good starting point. And I usually just say, go with a cover that you like, Be like, this color, I love the vibe of this cover. You're probably going to like the games inside. That's my Indiepocalypse guarantee. But that's it. I don't have any. Because at this point, I'm going to shut down. I'm going to go for 80 more hours. So I'm going to shut it down. So Tingle Virus, Michi, but thank you both for being here so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having.
Thank you for making your art in general. Thank you for being part of the zine. It's all a big collaborative thing that I love to do, even if it is like, you know, I try my hardest and not to present it as, or to think of it as a thing that I, even though it is a thing that I run, the thing does not work if other artists do not show up. You know, it's not really like it can exist without everyone involved and everyone out there just kind of making art every day. And to not go the extra 80 hours, I will stop talking about my love of art, and instead I will go to end the show. Thank you, everyone. And as soon as there's Fubar, found you. The ceremonial, where is Fubar? Andrew, do not click GIMP. Do not click GIF maker. Make sure you click Fubar. And I succeeded. And with that, we'll give you one final goodbye, everyone. And thank you for joining me. Us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.